Funny story. Number one in roofs. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube. But I got to be number one in roofs because of the fact that I wanted to break out into the roofing industry anyway. I had to do housing for my houses anyway. So I decided to offer a leak-proof roof to make sure that to make roofs. So I set a company to work making roofs. And they would go around, and they also later on did siding and some other things. But basically, what they would do is they would do test houses, take pictures of it, and then try and build a roof, and then see if it leaked. And if it leaked, then go back and redo these houses. There's only like a couple test houses to start with, I think. But basically, people would pay money, and they would get a guaranteed leak-proof roof. In other words, if it leaked, they'd go back out and fix it. So they lost money for about 6 months or so as they tried different things to get the roof not to leak. But within, I think, about a year or two, basically waiting for it to rain, and then it leaked, and then people pointed out where it leaked, and then I had a team of people, like 150 people, whatever, doing the roofs. And they very quickly figured out exactly what part of the roofs leaked and what part didn't leak. And pretty soon, they went through a couple test tries, and I gave them some advice, and some of it worked, some of it didn't work. Mostly it didn't work. Mostly it was them. But pretty soon, they got a roof that actually did not leak in a rainstorm, which this led actually to rumors and word getting around that they had a roof that did not leak at all, and was in fact sealed. And it took them probably about 3 years to get this going. And what it was they realized they needed a paper barrier underneath, which was perfect because I had a paper company, and I think that they started doing the tar and everything, blah, blah, blah. And they went through a couple tries, but they very soon got the whole number one roof, and that did not leak. And later on, there were photographs of these roofs and all that stuff, and it was for posterity and for remembering that these were the leak-proof roofs. And basically that's a guarantee for like 3 or 6 years or whatever, 7 years. I think I wanted to offer it for 7 years leak-proof, at least. And then eventually it became a lot longer, of course. But basically word got around, and then and the photos got around. And pretty soon my company was number one in roofs, because we actually offered a leak-proof roof which would not leak for a certain amount of time. And that's the story. And they took pictures, and then later on they did the siding, and they did leak-proof. They might have started out with leak-proof siding, basically, and we had huge success on that, and then that led to the leak-proof roof, I think, or something like that. Anyway, there's a chain of events there, basically, where they took pictures, and then later on it goes into the metal siding, the tin siding, and different sidings, aluminum siding, redwood siding, a couple different siding options and choices that people could have back in the 1900s or whenever. Basically, if they owned a tavern or bar or house or whatever, they could pre-order one of my sidings or basically roofs, and they could have their own leak-proof or whatever, windproof or whatever thing. Which is why we get to Windscale, because I think I used the money from the siding company to start the nuclear company of Windscale, or the town of Windscale, because they're using the housing sidings and the housing roofing from the wind. It was a windproof siding or something like that, so they called it Windscale because it's outside of the house looked like scales. So that's how that kind of transgresses and all that, because back then I was number one in roofs and number one in sidings, I think. In siding to houses, which was basically like a redwood siding or aluminum or tin siding or some sort of siding, basically. And I had a huge siding and roofing business, basically. I was number one. Yay! Woohoo! But it was mostly because I offered a guarantee, that the wind in a storm would not come through, and or in normal conditions, you would not get a drafty house. You would not have a drafty house. And the rain would not pour through your roof for at least 7 years or so. I tried to offer a 7-year guarantee. Anyway, that's how that kind of transgressed, and because I had people going out there and I guaranteed the roof, so if it leaked, people would come in. Of course, some things were damaged, and I think I might have even paid some money to replace some of the things that were damaged or whatever. I don't really remember the details of it, but basically I became number one in roofs and sidings. And it kind of keys into my lumber and my paper mill, basically. and they were working on tar paper or some sort of oil embodied paper or something like that. Might even be mercury paper or lead paper for all I know. But basically, it was a paper that the water did not come through. I don't really know exactly the details of it. You know, that was back in the day when I was doing it, and I was like, shh, 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 you know, just moving through, you know, building my empire. You know, well, I mean, I was taking on a new problem, basically. You know, I had gone, you know, I started out with this problem, then worked to that problem, then worked to this problem, then worked to that problem. I was just, you know, solving little problems as I go. But basically, for about, I don't know, 35 years, basically there was one roofing and siding company pretty much, or at least one bigger than the rest, and that was mine because I actually offered a guarantee. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Back in the day, nobody offered any guarantee, it seemed. And I seemed to be the only person who could lose money long enough to actually be able to offer a guarantee and just have my people work on it until they got it right. And they did, of course, but the pictures in the last segment, you know, where you see some of the weird roofs, you know, like the patchwork roof with the little things to support it on the outside. We tried a couple different things. You know, that was partly my fault. You know, that was my best guess. And then, you know, I worked and they worked and we worked together, my people and I and stuff, and we got the #1 roof. You know, it was a team effort. And later on in the end, I was just like, yeah, well, I'm not really into, you know, I already had like this huge empire, or at least I had more money coming in from other sources. So I was like, yeah, you know, great. Good going with the roofs. Good work. Keep it up. You know, and so I really didn't really worry about, you know, that part of the business. You know, I took probably a little bit of the money and just moved it on to another project that I was doing. You know, I basically, every time I would become #1 or gain a lot of money, I would take some of the money, basically take a fair amount of the money. I'd be like, okay, and you're going to supply money for this option, for this thing. And I'd move to the next problem. And they would supply a fair amount of money for that, you know, because they were basically rich beyond the wildest dreams at that point in time. And I'd be just taking a little bit of that money to go do something else. And then that would usually become huge and successful too. Because I literally had money to burn, I guess. You know, and I had like 5 or 6 other companies which were basically hovering in the background, which I could always call upon. So it was kind of an interesting time, 1900s or so, because I had all these companies which I could call upon if I truly needed anything, and they allowed for some interesting things to happen, like guarantees and stuff like that. I could provide those things and offer those things when not many other people could do it, or not many other people were doing it. I don't really know. But yeah, I was #1 in roofs, so, and sidings, yay, and pictures. So, and I think I've already posted this. So anyway.